right, sizing an AC unit. Sizing an AC unit is really tricky because we want to make sure we're taking the heat out of the house at the correct rate. So we want to size an AC for the house, right? So back in the back in the 50s and actually so much more like the 60s, when you bought houses then, you pretty much had one option of walls. You had pretty much one option of wall types. You had pretty much one option for windows. Do you want windows or not? You had pretty much one option for doors. Do you want a door or not? You pretty much had one ceiling height. The ceiling was the height. You had one option for insulation. Do you want insulation or not? And it was pretty simple. There wasn't a lot of choices, was there? But even back then, it did what we call a heat load calculation. I have some plans that my grandfather had from when he was building houses, and they did what you call a heat load calculation. We sized AC units for a heat load calculation. Nowadays, how many different types of windows can you buy if you're going to build a house? A lot. Like new ones all the time. You have differences between how many panes of glass there are. You have differences between what kind of gas they put between the panes. Double pane, triple pane, quadruple pane, how well the glass is sealed. Is it argon gas or CO2 gas or whatever the kind of gas? And then you have the type of metal they use to seal the glass. And then they have the type of coating they put in the outside, what kind of radiant heat that they're blocking on that. You have on top of that low E glass that's keeping a lot of that radiant heat out. And then you have the ones that automatically tint now. You can press a button and it tints it to keep all of these different types of glass. How many different types of walls do you have now and wall coverings on the outside? You can have insulated siding, you can have regular siding, you have reflective siding, silver siding, brick siding, wood siding, fake log cabin siding. You can have 2x4 walls, 2x6 walls, 2x10 walls. The insulation in the walls, you can have R6, R8, R12. You can have the foamed walls that seal everything. Ceiling heights. How many different types of ceiling heights we have now? Oh man, you got 6 foot, you got 7 foot, 8 foot, 9 foot, 10 foot. You got the ones that are the vaulted ceilings. Now they got the rounded half dome ceilings. You got loft ceilings. You got all different sizes of ceiling heights. What different types of doors do we have now? Gosh, doors alone, yeah. Do you want a solid wood door? You want a partial wood door? You want a fixed wood door? You want wood doors with glass in them? You want metal doors? Metal insulated doors? What kind of door frame you have? The walls inside. Are the walls inside insulated, not insulated? The roof. Is it going to be a metal roof that reflects heat, a white roof, a black shingle roof that absorbs a massive amount of heat, which is crazily popular here, that should never be here? What kind of floor do you have? Is it concrete floor? Is it an insulated concrete floor? Is it a pier and beam floor? Is it a pier and beam insulated floor? Is it stilts? What kind of flooring is it we have? Plus, how many people live in a house? You know, some houses, they only got a few people living there. Some houses have extended families living in there. There's lots of people, lots of body heat. How many kitchens are there in the house? How many bathrooms are there in the house? Of those bathrooms, what kind of, what's the size of those bathrooms? And what's the size, are they full bathrooms, partial bathrooms? What kind of showers do they have? What kind of ventilation set up in that bathroom? Computers. How many computers are there going to be in that house? Because computers put out a tremendous amount of heat. Plus trees. What kind of trees are there outside? Is there overhang? Where is this house located? Is it going to be located in a cooler climate, warmer climate, dry climate, humid climate? What kind of ground covering is there outside? Is there rocks that's going to reflect heat into the side? Is there going to be grass out there that absorbs some of that heat energy? There's a lot that goes into sizing a unit. Oh, and going back to the windows real quick. Are the windows on the north, south, east, or west side of the house? Or maybe they're northeast or northwest or any combination, because if the sun is shining through these windows in the morning, is this room going to be the same temperature as the room on the other side or the other ones? And then in the evening when the sun's going down and it's shining through a different set of windows, is that going to play a part in the heat load calculation? Absolutely. So a lot of information goes into sizing a unit. So when it comes to sizing a unit, you do what you call a heat load calculation. In my day, we had what we called a short sheet. And it was an entire page of calculations. We had to measure the walls facing each direction. How much wall space was there? What kind of insulation is in the walls? Of those walls, how much of that space is windows? How many people's in the house? All this stuff is called a short sheet. It was an entire page long, and it was the shortcut version. It took a little bit of time to do a heat load calculation. Now you got it simpler. Now you got computer programs. You have what you call manual, you got writesoft. It's manual J. There's a book called Manual J, which all of it's sized on. But there's a book called writesoft. And it's a computer program. You bring your laptop in, and you go through and you size everything up. You put all the numbers in, it asks you questions, and it builds you a blueprint. And then it tells you the size of it. And now you got the laser things, laser distance. Beep, beep. You can get the whole size of this room like that. And you just put those numbers in. You can do a heat load calculation in like 30 minutes now. Where before it took us a few hours to really get a good heat load calculation. And it's going to size what size the air conditioner is. On top of that, it sizes how much CF film you need in each room, so you have the proper airflow for each room. It's a heat load calculation. It's beautiful. It's awesome. It's great. It's simple. But back in the 60s and 50s, when they would do these old-fashioned calculations, you had everything was the same. All the walls were the same, the windows, everything was the same. So one guy figured out, you know, it really works out to square footage because everything was the same. When he did it, everything was the same. So he said there was so many square foot per ton. And it worked all through the 60s, 50s, 70s even. The 80s, it started to get a little rough. It didn't work so well because in the 80s, you started having more options. In the 90s, that was gone. Think of it in the 90s. We think you guys are young. You probably think, oh, a 90s house is old. That's a new house. Right? And then the house is built in 2000. How many options were there in types of doors, windows, and walls in a house in 2000? You think it goes the same as it was back in the 60s? No. Even in the 60s, they did heat load calculations. So what you have is people that heard this old rule from a long time ago, right? Old rule from a long time ago. And it's simple. And we love simple. And so what they started doing was saying, oh, so many square foot per ton, that's what size you need. So we have a saying nowadays to help this stick so people remember it. Square foot per ton proves you're dumb. Square foot per ton proves you're dumb. You should never size a house off square footage. If you want to size one off of square footage, there's an easier way. What you do is you go 10 paces from the house, which is usually right about the curb, and you count how many thumbs cover the house, and each thumb is a ton of cooling. Works just as well. Isn't that ridiculous? Wouldn't it be ridiculous to size the house with your thumbs? Oh, see how many of my thumbs cover the house? Yep, well, it took 4 thumbs. That's a 4-ton unit. Oh, your house only took 2 thumbs. But my house is facing the other direction. Oh, nope, only 2 thumbs. I'm on the curb. 2 thumbs. You're good. You're good to go. It's insane, right? Absolutely insane. People are sizing units off of square footage still today. Still today, they're trying, oh yeah, so many square foot. Yeah, you're good. Now, it may give you an idea of if you're in a ballpark or not, but it will not give you any way possible the size of a unit for that house. The worst thing you can do is oversize an AC. Never oversize an AC. In America, we always think, bigger is better. Yeah, right? So the problem with an oversized AC is everything about how the AC works. It takes about 15 minutes for this refrigeration cycle to get up and running. When this refrigeration cycle is up and running, I have to bring in low pressure vapor, pump out high pressure vapor, get this pressure built up, get that pressure dropped, get the airflow moving, get everything balanced out. I need oil return, and the oil flows with the refrigerant to get back to my compressor. Right? It takes a little bit of time. If I let it run for less time and the unit shuts off, that oil may start building up in the evaporator or building up over here in this other line, and the oil doesn't make its way back to the compressor, and the compressor starts up without oil. So you want that compressor to have a certain amount of run time. To dehumidify the air, I need to move air across this evaporator at a certain rate. If I move the air across this evaporator for a certain amount of time and a certain rate, I can dehumidify it. But if I only pull it across for a little bit and shut it off, I don't get to pull that moisture out. Plus, that evaporator cool, it stays moist, and a lot of that air is evaporating right back into that moisture is evaporating right back into the air. So, when we have a unit that's oversized, what it does is it comes on and it cools the air very fast. Air is light, by the way. I don't know if you guys knew that. So it's way easier to cool air than it is to cool water, because air changes temperature very, very quickly and very easily. So as I move the air through this evaporator coil, I can boom, boom, quickly take the heat out of that air. And I'm blowing that cool air into the room. And when I drop the temperature of that room very, very quickly, I drop the temperature of that room quickly, the air is the only thing that's really changing. But what else is in this room?
Moisture.
Tables, moisture, tables, people, walls, floors, everything. So the air very quickly heats back up. And the unit comes back on and very quickly cools it back off. And then it heats up very quickly, and it's on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off. Before we get the refrigerant cycling through, before I get the oil return, and this unit wears out, plus the amount of electricity it takes to start this compressor is significant, and it wears the unit out and uses way more electricity, and it's not as comfortable. And also, it doesn't dehumidify. Now, that's not a problem here with the humidification, but in any other place you go, you don't dehumidify, it's a big issue. You can have the humidity inside the house way higher than the humidity outside just because you don't dehumidify. So by running that system oversized, it wears it out faster. It also ends up making it uncomfortable. And if you live anywhere else, it causes dehumidification problems. So if you have a unit that's undersized, it'll actually be better because it'll run longer and it'll dehumidify. So the other thing is, you don't size a unit for the hottest day of the year. You don't size it for that one time you might need it. When I go and buy a car, I don't buy a car rated for the engine for that one time that I need to pass somebody in a 2-lane road and I want to get around them as quickly as possible. I don't buy my engine like that. I don't buy a NASCAR engine for that one time I may need to pass somebody, or those very few times a year I need to pass somebody to get around, right?
You telling me I did it wrong?
Yes. I saw your bug. You're okay.
See my other car. Actually, you did.
So you want to make sure that the system's sized properly. The AC unit is occasionally going to need to run when it's 115 degrees. But even when it's 115 degrees, it's only there for an hour or two a few times a year, really and truly. We think, wow, it's 115. Well, it stays over 100 significantly for a significant amount of time here. But when you calculate the whole entire year and how many times it's actually at 115, how many hours it is, it's very seldom at 115. And when the temperature outside is 115, the air conditioner shouldn't be able, or it should be running past its maximum. It should be staying on constantly. When it's 115 degrees outside, your air conditioner should run non-stop to maintain temperature. Non-stop, which is running as its most efficient, by the way. Should run non-stop, continuously. When it's 115 degrees outside, does any of your air conditioners cycle off? Oversized. It's oversized. When it's 115 degrees outside, that unit should be maxed out. It should be on its whole way. When you're passing somebody on a 2-lane road, you want to get around them, you have it floored, right, to get around them? It's like saying, oh, you know what? I'm going to really need to really goose it to get around this car. I'm going to give it 3/4 throttle here. Right? That is an oversized AC for sure. So we want to make sure we size it correctly for the house, maintain temperature, humidity. It's called a heat load calculation. A friend of mine, he had his AC and his compressor went out. Really nice high-dollar Train unit. Really nice unit. And he come to me and he was talking about the compressor. And he said, man, the compressor died, so we got to find out why it died. And he went through everything. And he said, man, he couldn't find anything about why it died. He was getting quotes for it. He said, well, let's size your house. So he did a heat load calculation, and the unit was 1 entire ton oversized. An entire ton oversized. What was happening was the unit was coming on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off. No oil return, and it burned out the compressor. So I said, you need to put the right size unit in there, and you're going to be okay. And he goes, man, you know, it's Vegas. It's hot. I really don't want to put a smaller unit in. Like, well, did you do a heat load calculation? Yeah, I had it done. Put that size in. But, you know, what if it's too small? I said, did you do a heat load calculation? Yeah, I did. Then that's the size you put in. It will be okay. But I'm just afraid it's going to be too small.
All right, then burn out another compressor.
I was like, why are you asking me? I mean, at this point. So he said, okay, I'm going to trust you. And he put in an entire ton smaller than he was supposed to have, or than he originally had. And he called me back a few weeks later, and he says, Ty, this thing is cooled like it's never cooled before. He goes, it runs longer, and it's so much more comfortable in the house. He even keeps it at a higher temperature because it just generally feels better in the house at a higher temperature. And it runs smooth, it runs quieter, everything runs better. He called me back 2 months later and says, Ty, I've got my last 2 electric bills. They are way less money. He goes, I will have this new air conditioner paid for in just the savings on my electric bill in about 2 years at this rate. That's a heck of a payback in 2 years, I tell you. So, yes, we do size units. We do size them with a heat load calculation. Square foot per ton, stay away from that. Now, if somebody says, oh, square foot, don't call them dumb, all right? I'm not saying that. But I'm saying in your mind, you need to be going, square foot per ton proves you're dumb. A lot of people just got hung up on either one of two things, either the old school way of doing it, not actually wanting to appreciate it, or doing a heat load calculation is too complicated. They're afraid of it. They don't know how to do it. Nobody's ever showed them how to do it. So they don't know. And it's just easier to say, oh, 35 PSI in the tire. Oh, just add till you get it like 70 PSI refrigerant for R22. You'll be fine. Oh, just make sure this is not over like a hot day, like, 325. You should be good.
What was the application for the heat load calculation called?
writesoft. And then also Manual J. Manual J.
Is it RITE or RIGHT?
Have you seen my spelling?
That's fair.
I don't know.
I mean,
Let's Google both of them.
sounds like a plan.
I think it's with a W. I always wanted to change my name to WRIGHT. That way it could be Mr. Wright.
I just
All right.
totally almost wrote right, brother. I don't know.
Right. Any questions? No? No questions?